Hey YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be the fourth and final part of this series. So if you're new here, if you've not seen the other parts of this series, just to kind of give you a little brief overview of what this is about. It's all around my versions of the futures for these families. So with the Sims series, in Sims 1 and Sims 2, you get a nice progression in the families from the original game to its sequel, and we get to find out what happens to those families. But because Sims 3 is a prequel, so before the events of Sims 1, and Sims 4 is kind of in its own alternate timeline, we never really find out what happened. We never really got the sequel to their stories. This series is me just telling a story from my perspective, so what I would like to happen to these families and where I would have taken them when I was playing The Sims 2, just to see what happens next and find out what would have happened to these families if Sims 3 had been the sequel that we wanted. It's basically from my perspective and what I would like to have seen happen to these families in Sims 3, because a simmer can dream. Within each of these episodes, I've kind of been covering a little bit of the backstory of the families, so where we were first introduced to them in Sims 1, and then what happened to them between Sims 1 and Sims 2, and then how Sims 2 started, and then I basically get into my version of events. So we have covered the Broke family / newbie family in episode 1. We've covered the Goth family in episode 2, and then in episode 3 we covered the Pleasant family, and lastly we are left with the Burb family. They were in Sims 1. They were available if you had the Sims Unleashed. So within Sims 1 you kind of had Sims Lane, which was the original neighbourhood, and that's what the neighbourhood looked like if you didn't have the expansion packs. But as soon as you got Sims Unleashed, you did get a wider view of the neighbourhood. It gave you Old Town, so you had community lots within there, and you also had more residential lots for families to move into. Right on the edge of Old Town, you saw an old farmhouse, and within that farmhouse lived the Burb family. So the Burb family is a pre-made family that were living at 63 Gunther Goth Highway in Old Town. The families are kind of dressed in a bit of retro fashion. You do have an adult male, Brad Burb. You then have an adult female sim, which is Tiffany Burb, and then you have a boy, a child sim, who is Johnny Burb. Family do already have a pet dog whose name is Tucker. So with this family of 3 and their pet, they live in this old farmhouse. When you look into the family's bios, just to kind of understand a little bit about them, Brad Burb's bio does say, tired of the hectic pace of the city, Brad packed up the family and set out in search for peace and quiet. His interests include weeding, watering, and soup. You then have Tiffany Burb. So Tiffany does not share her husband's love of nature. She's an expert shopper who knows all the latest trends and styles. So she seems like your city girl who loves fashion, and you can tell by the way that they've sort of dressed this in that she's still into that high class city life. They have really sort of made her character be opposite of her husband. Like his bio says, he's really into getting into nature and stepping back from that city life. And then with their son Johnny loves frogs, mud, and playing with friends. His least favourite subject in school is history. He's dressed up in sort of denim dungarees with then a red top with a matching cap and then sort of big red Wellington boots. The family is starting out new to the town in The Sims Unleashed. So with Brad and Tiffany, because they're so different, if you actually look into their relationships as well, their sort of daily relationship with each other is quite low, probably just because of the fact that they're so different, and they probably don't have a lot in common as well. So it kind of gives you a bit of an insight into the fact that maybe they don't have the best relationship. Yeah, so that's kind of how they're left in Sims 1. When we then go into Sims 2, so Sims 2 is about 25 to 30 years into the future. Both Tiffany and her husband have passed away. Johnny has grown up. His name is now just John Burb, so he no longer is referred to as Johnny. He has actually got married to Jennifer Pleasant. So we did cover the Pleasants in the last episode. If you haven't seen the last video, Jennifer Pleasant was a child sim, so she will have been a similar age to Johnny. They have also had a daughter. They're not actually moved into Pleasantview, so if you were looking went for them within Pleasantview as a map, you wouldn't see them moved into any of the houses. But to actually play as this family, they're in the family bin within Sims 2. So if you open up the family bin, you can see that they're ready to move in. From what I've read online and kind of looking into the memories for John and kind of what happened to him between Sims 1 and Sims 2. Quite a few people have kind of thought that with the fact that Tiffany did like to live in the city, perhaps after Brad died, that Tiffany moved back to the city and John decided to move with her along with his family, so with his new wife, Jennifer. But then when Tiffany died, John decided, I think we should move back to Pleasantview, and the family were once again uprooted and moved over to Pleasantview, where Lucy is able to grow up there. Basically that they've moved around a lot just because of where Tiffany wanted to live, and now that she was no longer married to Brad, she was able to do that. And once again, the family are new to the neighborhood. So I think when you read the bios for each of the members of the Burb family, John, it says, John Burb fondly remembers the hours he used to spend weeding and watering his parents' garden. He hopes to continue the tradition. So it does seem that John does kind of long for that family life that he had when he grew up. With Jennifer's bio, it says that Jennifer used to dream of being a soccer superstar. I think that's probably referring to the fact that she had a football kit on in Sims 1, but now she's quite happy to focus on being fashionable and stylish instead. So it does kind of seem like in the dynamics of this marriage, so between John and Jennifer, that they are kind of similar to John's parents in the sense that John wants to go back to sort of the quiet family life, living away from the city, but Jennifer likes to be quite fashionable and stylish. I feel like when I read the bios and the fact that they sort of mirrored John's parents, I was kind of wondering if maybe when Tiffany moved back to the city with John and Jennifer, that maybe Jennifer quite liked the life that Tiffany had. So maybe she kind of wanted to emulate that life. I don't know, maybe she got on well with Tiffany. So Jennifer's a fortune aspiration sim. So this means that she wants to have as much money and spend her money on quite lavish things, have the best items, very materialistic. Now that we're in Sims 2 and it's been so long, obviously John and Jennifer have had a daughter. So Lucy is now the new child within the family. She's the youngest person in the Burb family tree. Little Lucy has a knack for getting into trouble, but she's so cute and friendly that most people never notice. I quite liked that bio. I feel like with that bio, it was kind of telling me that as a sim, maybe she was underestimated a lot. Maybe she was either smarter or more cunning than people let on. I think the fact that it said that she had a knack for getting into trouble, it kind of opened up the doors to kind of the personality that she might have. Maybe she would be a troublemaker in her teen life, maybe leading her into maybe a mischievous or a criminal life. When you open up the game and they're in the family bin, obviously you can pick to move them in anywhere. And once you move them in, it's then up to you what you do with the family. So you've got John as the adult male sim, and then Jennifer as the adult female sim, and then Lucy as the female child sim. So because John's a family sim, he will want to do things such as stay at home, help Lucy with homework and learn to cook, while Jennifer, being a fortune sim, will want to get a job, get promoted and make more friends. That is then when I come in. So when we get into the game, I'll be able to show you the screenshots that I took and the direction that I took the story for the Burb family. So let's get on into it. When you start the game and you're ready to move in the Burb family, as soon as they move into the house that you've chosen, you'll find that actually they don't have any past screenshots. So they're a little bit different to the other families, where instead of us having this sort of timeline of events where we can have a look through the screenshots and then compare that to the memories, this family don't really have any screenshots. They're just kind of like a bit of a blank slate when you move them in. They do have some past memories, so you can see that Brad died first, and then you can see that when Jennifer had Lucy, then Tiffany died. So you can kind of see the timeline of when his parents died and when Lucy was born, but there's no screenshots to kind of show what that looked like. I moved the Burb family into a home in Pleasantview. I wanted John and Jennifer to both get the life that they wanted. I didn't want to cater to one of their lifetime aspirations over the other. And I feel like Jennifer was very much more into having a career and having money and being wealthy and having that lavish lifestyle. And John was very much just more into raising his family, being there for his children and having that large family. I decided to get her a job in something that was corporate, something very much businessy. So yeah, I did kind of go for the business career. So I wasn't able to kind of take her into the same direction that Tiffany had and put her into a similar career. And then with John, his lifetime aspiration was to have 6 grandchildren. I decided that he would be more into expanding the family. I decided that it would be useful for him to have a job as well, just with family funds being low and contributing to Jennifer's aspiration. I decided to get him a job as well, but it was an evening shift, so I put him into the culinary career just because I feel like he would love to be into cooking and cooking for his family, especially with the sort of knowledge that he will have learned from growing up at the farmhouse in Old Town from his dad, farming food and growing crops and using them when making meals at the home. This screenshot is actually showing that Jennifer did get pregnant again. So Lucy is currently in school and they decided to sort of expand their family a little bit. This is then showing that Lucy got an A+ at school. And obviously John is really happy for her. So I think this is just a nice screenshot showing that John's sort of celebrating Lucy's wins and being present with her. There was a little bit of a surprise with Jennifer's pregnancy. She had twins. I suddenly had a family of 5. The girl was born first, so she's called Becca, and the baby boy was born afterwards, so he is called Thomas. And all of the money that they were earning from their low-level jobs was going straight into funding these children. I feel like with John working evening shifts, it did help massively in being able to raise them because they were having to look after 2 toddlers as well when they aged up. He was able to sort of help out with raising them. I think it did kind of hold Jennifer back a little bit with her promotions just because of the days off that she got with her family leave. I don't think John received as much family leave as she did. And I think the sort of agreement that they decided to have was that John was going to be a bit more present. This is just a picture of the twins together. This is what they looked like as soon as they were children and they were ready to go to school. I think it was really nice and wholesome playing with this family. I feel like the Burb family are quite wholesome, especially with John being sort of the figurehead of this household. I think he really was the glue that held them all together. Jennifer was so focused on her career. She really was this busy working mom. She was there providing for her family. She really was kind of the breadwinner of the household, but obviously she missed out on quite a lot. Lucy did age up into a teenager, started going to high school. Now, if you've seen any of my previous episodes, you'll know that Lucy did originally start dating Burb. They really did hit it off, but I think what ultimately happened between them two was that Bo was very focused in his studies. He was very much tied up in schoolwork. He took it very seriously. And I feel like Bo's goals and where he kind of wanted to take his life was more about breaking out of the life that he had, wanting to achieve more. He was very ambitious. He was someone who wasn't really close to his family. He just kind of wanted to aim to do better and to make his life better and to create his own better family. I feel like because Lucy she ultimately was quite close to her family in comparison. I don't think she really liked how serious Bo was and how seriously he was kind of taking himself, but she really did hit it off with Alexander Goth. So Alexander Goth, as I covered in the Goth episode, he was very much into partying and enjoying life. I feel like because his childhood had kind of been full of grief of what happened with his mum, when he became a teenager he was kind of more into just making as many friends as possible and wanting to just enjoy life and just to find happiness and kind of find himself a little bit, seeing as he was living a life through his dad's money and the life that his dad had set up for him. He just wanted to kind of find himself and enjoy himself. And I think that really did appeal more to Lucy. So Lucy, she was quite happy with her family. Her dad was really loving and was always there for her and always celebrated her wins, as we saw. And her mum, even though she was a working mum and couldn't be around as much, she was someone that Lucy, I think, looked up to a little bit. I feel like Lucy and Alexander kind of matched a bit on their personality and what they wanted. I am kind of glad that Lucy and Alexander hit off so well and were so well suited. I loved when they were dating. I would take them to all the nice restaurants because obviously Alexander was just happy to take her wherever she wanted to go, and I think Lucy quite liked being spoiled, especially the fact that she'd kind of lived a life where her dad spoiled her a little bit, and I think she was quite happy to kind of get into a relationship with someone who would treat her just as well as her dad was. I was quite sad that it didn't work out between her and Bo. It really did feel like there was two directions that I could take her in, and ultimately, yes, she picked Alexander. This is a picture of Lucy and Alexander at one of the restaurants that's in downtown. This picture, I feel like there's a lot going on, but it's actually a really sweet picture. I want to say it's Lucy's birthday. I wanted to take this picture because I thought it was such a sweet party where her family actually all turned up for her. It turns out that Lucy got quite close with her cousins. Alexander was there, her siblings have aged up into teenagers, so yeah, there was a lot going on in this picture. So just kind of taking it from left to right. So this is a picture from within the sitting room of the Burb family house, and on the left hand side we've got Lucy talking to, I want to say that this is Angela. Angela is currently pregnant with her first child, and Lilith is stood behind her just about to sit down to watch TV. So Lilith is also pregnant with her first child. Sat on the chair we do have Alexander, and then we've got Lilith's husband, so this is Dirk, Dreamer. I do feel like Angela's husband, Dustin, is also here, but he's not in the picture. And then this is actually Becca. So this is Becca Burb. She's now a teenager. She is actually dating Travis Broke. So Travis, he was obviously introduced in the Broke episode. Travis is partying, he's a bit of a rebel. So yeah, and Becca's absolutely infatuated with him. And I love that their dad is just stood there sort of seeing this relationship unfold. I'm not sure John would really approve of Becca dating Travis Broke, but yeah, I feel like Becca and Travis were quite an interesting couple just because Becca's feminine and soft and she just looks very sweet, you're sort of typical nice girl, and then the fact that I think she was friends with Travis when they were children, and then as soon as they aged up they were completely into each other. So I just kind of let that relationship happen. Yeah, I do wonder if they'd sort of change their styles to kind of match each other, so maybe Travis would try and become more softer, more of a nice boy to match his girlfriend, or whether Becca would turn into a bit of a rebel, a bit of a party girl, and change her whole look to match him. As you know from the Goth episode, Lucy did get engaged to Alexander, so this is them at a romantic meal where Alexander proposed over lobster, of course, very classy. It's quite cute that Lucy kind of turned into this very materialistic woman where she liked wearing designer brands. I did like kind of dressing her in this sort of black dress with a white fur coat and long boots. I did kind of sort of dress her a little bit like a fashionista, like her mum, but I think she does have the family aspiration. So yeah, she's kind of a nice blend of her parents a little bit. So this is Becca going over to Travis's house for the first time and meeting his mum, Brandy Brook. Now obviously Brandy is a fan favourite of mine. So I quite liked this picture where Becca is sort of being introduced into the Brook house. Becca comes from a very suburban house with a loving father and an ambitious mother, and they've got money. They don't have a lot of money, but I feel like they're very much middle of the road, happy, suburban. You know, they're very normal. They're very straight-laced. They don't have any conspiracies. They don't have any drama to them. And I thought it was quite funny that Becca was being introduced into the Brook household with all of the conspiracies that they have, the crime that seems to be introduced into this family, and the sort of bad boy that Travis was becoming. Yeah, just completely contrasting what she grew up with. Travis grew up in such an unstable home, but that is kind of where they got to. Becca and Thomas are both teenagers. They're just about to become adults. That is kind of where it would end in Sims 2. If Sims 3 wasn't a prequel, so it was a sequel and followed on from the events in Sims 2, what I think it would look like is when you opened up the Burb family house, you would see John and Jennifer as elders. Jennifer on the cusp of maxing out her career, and John obviously just excited to have as many grandchildren as possible. And you would see Thomas and Becca living with them, just before their adult birthday, so it could either be the day before or the day of their birthday. Perhaps when you open up the game, it's their birthday party and you just kind of have to invite their family round and set up a birthday party for them to have a bit of a family reunion. Or it could start just on their first day, fresh as an adult, ready to take on the world. Probably Becca would want to carry on her relationship with Travis Broke. Maybe they're still into each other. With Thomas, with him not having someone in his life, sort of a partner, I suppose it could be open to him being in a relationship with anyone. It would be quite nice, I think, if with Thomas, he would kind of be like his dad, in a sense that he would be interested in cooking, he would be interested in food. It'd be quite cool to kind of see him become a chef like his dad. There isn't really any sort of conspiracies that could have led to any drama in Sims 3. I suppose with the kids being quite mischievous or being able to get into trouble, you could take that in any direction. You could have it where Becca kind of went down the rebel party lifestyle with Travis and they got into trouble. Maybe they got into crime and Becca completely spiraled. I have said it before and I'll say it again, with these storylines, I do love a good happy ending, and I think it was quite nice that these are probably the only families that don't have a history of drama. The Burbs are very nice suburban family, so I suppose that's in their name. My stories are very much a happy ending, so it would be funny to kind of hear where everyone else took the Burb family, if you did move them into Pleasantview or if you ever played as them within your Sims 2 save, what you did with them. It'd be very interesting to know. This being the last episode of this series, it's quite nice that they had such a well-rounded family reunion as part of Lucy's birthday. I thought it was really nice just seeing them all in the same house. But yeah, with the rest of Sims 2, obviously there's a lot of other stories, there's a lot of other families. The whole point of this series was just to follow the families that started in Sims 1 and we saw what happened next in Sims 2, but we never found out where they went. I might cover the other neighborhoods in a different series, maybe in a different format as well, so I'll have a think about how I want to kind of cover the other families in Sims 2. But I hope you all enjoyed this series. It was a lot of fun to kind of put together. There was obviously a lot of work that I put into it. There was a lot of effort in kind of taking all the screenshots. But yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed this series. It's been really fun to put together. I will see you in the next series. Bye.